Hey everybody, Jedi Jack Luther here. Not going to get visual for me, but I'm using this so I can show stuff off here a little bit better. This is video number 2. I'm trying to do an update on stuff I've gotten in. We just did video number 1 with Tendril from the Inhumanoids. Video number 2 is the newest thing we got in from the Swamp Thing collection, the Transducer playset. So I want to talk about this one for a bit and go over some of my memories on it and everything. So Swamp Thing line came out in the 90s. It was a holdover from the Superpowers collection. The first Swamp Thing, of course, had they squeeze the legs and his arm would retract. So it kind of was a holdover. So they did like most things Kenner did, is they made several Swamp Thing figures and the bad guys for a cartoon that they made. The cartoon was not very popular. People who read Swamp Thing are used to Alan Moore's style of writing. It's very adult. You know, this was very very kiddish and everything. So they did a few cartoons, but they did the toy. And the toys are what's the really best part, of course. So you've seen that I already have the Swamp Thing Swamp Trap playset, which looks like a giant swamp piece. I like that. Well, we're doing something. This is another piece I got from Cro-Mag Toys up in Raleigh. This was the Swamp Thing Transducer, which was the Bad Guys playset. And what it was a playset design that you put a person in this containment unit, flip a switch, and he came out as a giant mutated praying mantis creature. It was complete in the box, but there was one problem with it. I'm not too worried about it, and I'll go over that in a minute. Let me flip the box to give you an idea. This is what the back of the box looks like. As you can see, you have a bad guy. There's the praying mantis figure and the playset itself. The playset's not very big. It's not spacious like the Swamp Trap playset is, but it's used for what it's used for, is to you know, change men into monsters. So we're going to check it out here because we have it set up. And it's right here. Now, oops. Now I'm going to close it up for 1 minute. I want to show a few things off here. You're going to notice that there are holes up on top here. And you're also going to notice there's some pegs right here. There are rubber hoses that connect these parts here. There are 2 long hoses that connect to any of these ports up here, and then there are 2 short hoses which connect this unit to these pegs. Now, like I said, this was complete. I have the hoses in the box. So you're saying to yourself, well, why didn't you connect them to make it complete? That's a good question. I'm going to answer right now. When this set first came out, I bought it from Walmart when it came out in 1990, 1991. I put it together. I'm going to show you, and you might even probably recognize what would happen anyway. When you attach the hoses are a stiffer rubber. They're not soft and pliable. They're pliable enough that they will bend. But what happens is they begin to stress the little posts that are inside these parts. And after a while, those posts break off, and then there's nothing for the hose to hold on to, because it's just a rubber tube which holds on to that little peg that's in there. But when you do that, the hoses, you know, are bending and they're stretching and they're stressing, and a lot of these little posts begin to break. And when they break, there's literally no fixing them. And then your hoses won't stay attached to anything because there's nothing holding the inner side of the tube of it. So when I display this, I do not display it with the hoses. The hoses don't break. It's these pegs that break. And when they break, now your set's in damaged condition, and I don't want that. So I'd rather display it without the hoses, just to save these posts so that it stays in really great condition. So I haven't even applied, the labels came with it, and I haven't even applied the labels yet. I still have the labels in the box. Like I said, this was complete. There is one problem, and I'll show that in a minute. This piece right here lifts up, and that's what that piece looks like. And what it is the play feature of that is you take your Unmen and you take their rubber mask and you put it in there, and it recharges it for the Unmen. Rotate this around. So we're going to open this up. Right? So what you would do is you would put a good guy character. There were only 2 humans, but you could put an Unman in here as well. And we'll zoom over it. You can see there's this spot right here. That's where the head of the person would go. Then you'd close this up. You'd flip this. And when you open it back up, your man or your Unman has turned into this horrific praying mantis creature. He still has, you can see the details on him. He's got a shirt. He's got a hand grenade. This is actually from an episode, the second episode of the cartoon, where the Unmen shoot a missile and it mutates the one dude, Bayou Jack, and turns him into this creature. So this is actually from a cartoon, but he didn't transform in a machine. It was a missile loaded with mutated compounds. So this is almost like a magic trick of sorts. You cover that back up. You rotate this container, and then you can... Now, here's the issue with what's wrong with this right here. And it's this right here. This container has green liquid in it. And in this position, the green liquid should fill this whole container up. So when you rotate it, the green liquid disappears and mutates, quote unquote, your character. In this position, it should be completely full, and it's not. You can see how it looks like there's a lot of evaporation. I'm guessing that this toy was kept in someone's attic where it was really hot, and because the tape on the box literally just peeled right off. It didn't stick to anything. So I have a feeling that this toy was kept in a very hot environment. It did not damage the playset, but it caused the liquid inside to basically evaporate. You can't see it here now because I wiped it off, but there was some pooling up here, and I think as the liquid evaporated out, it settled on the top inside the box. The box is fine. There's no damage to it. It's in good shape, but just that one small thing. I'm not too worried about it. This was only $20, which was an incredible steal for something in this great condition. With that thing only being the wrong thing wrong with it, I'm not worried about it because it's mostly for display. I can open it up, put the bad guys around it. The base of it looks just like exterior brick, a brick floor in a dungeon. I do have a gripe with that. Is that there are no pegs to peg a figure into. It would have been nice to have at least one peg here so you have someone at the control console. That would be cool. But there are no pegs on it. So a figure just has to basically stand on its own. And some of these figures did not stand 100% well, especially with heavy rubber masks on. So... But everything else is in there. Everything else works. The turntable mechanism is just fine. It did come with the rubber hoses and instructions and the little Kenner booklet, and everything else was in there. So it was complete. Just the green fluid is the only issue. But once again, not too worried about it. It'll be a display piece because most of the time when you rotate this, the green liquid would disappear. And there's your monster. So I probably will just leave it like that. It looks better and it displays well just like that. And I'm not going to put the rubber hoses on, as I've said before. They will just break those pegs off, and I don't want to destroy the set. It's better for me anyway. As you can see, if I put it right in the corner, it keeps this hood up. If I had hoses, that would all be blocked and it would be pushed away, and no. This is nice. Pushed in the corner of a bookcase, it holds the lid up so you can have that without it taking up too much space. And there's your mutated monster. I put the bad guys around it and we're good to go. The Swamp Thing stuff is kind of coming together pretty well. That's my collection so far. I need to get Arcane, who's the main bad guy, and a couple more Swamp Thing figures, and I might get one of the vehicles. We'll see how that works. But for today, that's the Transducer playset from Swamp Thing. I got one more video to update, and if you thought Tendril was a pretty piece of massive toy, wait till you see video number 3, because it's a great video, and it's another toy I've always wanted, and we're kind of getting toys I've always wanted this time. So I'm being pretty blessed around here, and you know, I thank God for all the stuff He's given me. So we're going to be back here shortly with video number 3. So hang on and come on back.